And given the current projections on growth, and I know you indicate they're usually horrifically wrong, they're usually horrifically wrong in the same direction.
No, that's not true.
And,
It can be wrong in either direction.
Well, they certainly could, but if you look at the projections of our entitlements, they've been horrifically under-guessing the cost since the beginning, particularly on Medicare.
On Medicare, there was a long period in which there were severe underestimates. In the case of Social Security, the estimated cost has been more or less on target for about the last 15 or 20 years. It's varied very little. It's gone up and down. It's moved in both directions.
But those numbers are important.
We're back at about where the projections were 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But the issue of numbers is pretty important. In your estimation, how much longer can our federal government continue to run $3 to $4 billion deficits every day? How long can that continue to occur in your opinion?
I think it's under current economic circumstances, on balance, beneficial. A serious effort to reduce.
So you think it can go on forever then? And the question was, how long do you think you think it can go on forever then?
I was in process of trying to answer your question. The question of whether a deficit is helpful or harmful depends on the economic circumstances. Once the economic recovery is well established and well underway, I believe it is of urgent importance for Congress to take aggressive measures to reduce federal budget deficits. An indefinite expansion of the national debt can do enormous harm to this country, could precipitate serious economic crisis, and I believe in the end members of this body and the Senate will jointly prevent that from happening. Currently, in the midst of a recession, an attempt to balance the budget, it seems to me, would do considerable harm.
Okay. Well, and I agree. I agree. And under the President's budget proposal, it didn't balance for 75 years. How much harm does that do if the President never proposed to ever balance the budget in the 75-year window?
I think that if one looks at the projection of the Congressional Budget Office, under current law, you'll discover that the budget deficit comes down sharply and reaches a very sustainable level. Current law, as opposed to current policy, would entail significant tax increases and spending cuts. Current law would not permit Social Security to spend more than it is collected.
The President's budget never balances. It never gets to a surplus in 75 years.
Never, ever. But the debt to GDP ratio comes down.
The question, as I asked it, and as you answered, was, can you run deficits without economic harm? And you said, when you have an economic recovery, you should not run deficits. And I agree with that statement. That was the statement you gave, Mr.
What I'm just trying to figure out. We should take aggressive measures to reduce the deficit.
So do you think we should, okay, I'm just trying to get an answer.
I'm trying to answer.
Okay, well, let me ask it again, if I might. Do you think we should ever run a surplus? In the next 75 years. How about next 75 years? Anytime you see a...
I don't have a specific date, but there are many circumstances under which a budget surplus would be highly desirable.
Okay, I agree with that. And again, the President's budget proposes to never run a surplus in 75 years. In 75 years, and the tremendous damage that could do to our economy if we don't look at entitlement spending. A year ago, by the way, was the anniversary of a vote in the House on the President's demand that we have a clean debt limit increase. Clean, with no cuts, no proposals, and no idea what we're going to do for the next, I don't know what his budget was, still 75 years of null and balance as well. But anniversary, and the House wisely said no, including it was a bipartisan no, that we should do something. Do you think that we should do a clean debt limit increase in December again, assuming that's when we hit the debt ceiling again?
I believe the debt ceiling should be completely separate from consideration of spending and revenue decisions. The debt ceiling is breached because of decisions that Congress has made in the past. If it wishes to change those policies, it should do so. But the idea that we are going to not raise the debt ceiling in the face of decisions that a majority of Congress has voted on and the President has signed seems to me to be to link policies that should not be linked.
I appreciate that opinion.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.